Welcome on board. I am TC and this is MBRR Media. This is a drive time dialectic. Most of you are familiar with my stuff. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Johns, who is in the chat. I love that you are here. Jimmy Johns is Blake's grandfather, and I got to meet him personally on Saturday and shake his hand. And welcome Nate, Ultimate Slacker. He's another person whose story I have told here on MBRR Media. If you haven't checked out that story, I would love for you guys to do that. His now significant other, his now wife, and he got married here on my channel, live from Nebraska. So after he told their story, but glad to see you guys here. Big shout out to all of my channel members and people come in show producer levels. I have my Anonymous, I have the Angry Vet, and IMAV are very big supporters, show producer level supporters, and cannot do what I do without them, and I cannot do what I do without my channel members. Hey Jerry, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I cannot do what I do without the subscribers and all the people that support in that regard. I will encourage you to continue to chat in the live stream, and while you're chatting in the live stream, remember to just come back after the video the stream is over, and also just comment on the video and then share it out. That two big things: hit the like button, share it, and comment. That's incredibly important. It's incredibly important for the story to continue to be told, and we're gonna get into it. Want to let you guys know just a couple of things. Going to be streaming Saturday from Oktoberfest in Spring Valley. We're going to be doing some man on the street interviews during Oktoberfest. I'm going to ask people what makes living in small town Minnesota or small town America good and right and proper, and I'm going to ask them what they think about the future of our republic and what they can do personally to improve on the future of our republic, to make things better. And then on Monday night of next week, I'm going to be live streaming our city council meeting from Spring Valley. So tune in for those. I've got lots of shorts that I've been putting out. This week I put out a short every day. We're going to have another one out tomorrow. Make sure you check those out and share them. So 6 months ago today, we had a tragic incident here in Minnesota. A young man, Blayke Mosted, had his life inalterably changed, along with the life of his brother and his family, as they were returning. Blayke and his brother and a friend of theirs were returning from St. Cloud, Minnesota, to where they lived in the Princeton area. Hey, good to see you. They were returning from prom preparations, and as all of you know, I've told the story so many times. They were involved in a very minor fender bender with a man who was driving the wrong way on Highway 10, and I did a live stream from the location of this incident on Saturday as well, and I actually have GoPro footage of the same accident scene, and I'm going to be doing a little mini documentary about that. I'm going to be doing some voice over and some story elaboration from the scene of the accident, like I said, as a kind of a mini doc in honor of Blayke and his family. So as they're involved in this little minor fender bender with this elderly man. A Minnesota State Trooper by the name of Ryan Moser was responding, and in his response to the scene of the accident, he was doing upwards of 120, 125 miles an hour and was unable to control his vehicle in a proper way, and ended up paralyzing Blayke with a neck injury and shattering his legs. And of course, in a moment like that, Blayke received a traumatic brain injury as well. And as I've said in other videos, the Sherburne County where this took place, the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Joel Broad, immediately the night of that accident began the cover-up to protect Minnesota State Patrol Trooper Ryan Moser. There's no other way to elaborate this. There's no other way to extrapolate. There's no other way to interpret the comments of Sheriff that night as he's commenting on the accident without any content or context to what took place with the accident. Nothing more than the words of the state trooper, not being able to review dash cam, not being able to review body cam, not being able to look at the totality of the incident. That night, the sheriff declared, this is not the trooper's fault. He was unable to avoid the accident. And as Bailey, who has been on the channel a couple of times now, one for an entire show and one for a brief talk on Saturday when I was live from the fundraiser. And by the way, they're still in need of help, and I will try and put the fundraiser, or not the fundraiser, yeah, the fundraiser link in the description of this stream after I'm done. When you're doing 120 miles an hour on a straight road, by the way, this road is tragically straight. When I mean tragically straight, it's like you could find no more straight, flat road in Minnesota than this road. And he's doing 120 miles an hour searching for a wrong-way driver. Of course he's not going to be able to stop. Why he couldn't see the accident and slow down, I don't know. I don't, I would assume in a situation like that, under the influence of something, how else are we supposed to interpret this? But Trooper Moser collides with Blayke and his vehicle and other vehicles. He does severe bodily harm to Blayke, and they're all transported to the hospital. Every single last one of them are transported to the hospital. And as a reminder, by the way, Braxton, Blayke's younger brother, looked up and saw the trooper coming and said, "Blayke, the cops are already here. He's not going to be able to stop in time." Those are the last words that Blayke heard before Trooper Moser attempted to unalive him that night. And Sheriff Dale Brott begins the cover-up immediately. Not Dale Brott, excuse me. Sheriff Joel Brott begins begins to cover for this trooper. And as I made aware, I met the wonderful lady who reached out to me. She just happened to come across my content as it relates to other issues within Sherburne County, like their excessive and unlawful use of force on the grandmother Terry for speaking during a county board meeting, the unlawful seizure and charging of Walker Anderson for having homemade firearms that met all the requirements, and we can have a conversation requirements on firearms, by the way, later on, that met all the requirements of a federal laws regarding firearms. They still maliciously prosecuted him. So she came across my content as it related to Sherburne County Sheriff's Office, and she said, "Hey, I've got a story for you." And we conversed for a while, and I began to cover the story, and I was then able to meet the family via social media, and I became personally, and as many of you have heard me say in the past, I don't do the hero thing, right? I don't have heroes, at least not living heroes. I would look back probably on some of the founding fathers and call them my, some philosophical heroes. I stand on the shoulders of giants that have gone before me. But Blayke quickly became someone that I admire with ferocity. Bailey is someone that I want on my side in a fight at all times. This girl is tenacious. She is a warrior for her family. She's a warrior for her baby brothers. When and if this girl decides to have children, she will be the very definition of a mama bear who's willing to lay it all on the line for her cubs. Because I have seen this play out over and over and over and over again. As I've gotten to know the family, as I've gotten to know their mom, I've gotten to know their grandmothers. Bailey has a warrior mother's instinct, and she's a fighter. And the huge response that they had at their fundraiser on Saturday can be laid squarely on the shoulders of this family, but in particular on the power of Bailey's desire to fight for her family, for the people she loves the most. And I cannot find a good way to block the sun. But she has said over and over again that she's not going to let this fight go. I mean, folks, it's been 6 months. And the only thing that we know that is certain is that the system has covered for this trooper. The system has covered up the crime of Trooper Ryan Moser. And as much problem as I have with the criminal injustice system in the state of Minnesota, I'll give them credit for one thing, and that is they at least managed to find somebody willing to charge Trooper Shane Roper with the murder of Olivia Flores in Rochester, Minnesota from 2023. But those circumstances in that situation were just hit at just the right time, where they were, in a spotlight situation. In this case, they've played hell trying to get full-on media coverage of this story. And I wish that my voice was bigger. I wish I could get people to pay attention to this. I wish I could get some big channels to pay attention to this. But I'm a nobody. I'm minuscule. And part of the struggle is that with bigger channels, they're media focused, and when I say media focused, they want video, right? And it's because like video plays well. When you look at channels like Here's the Deal, massive amount of respect for what Brian from Here's the Deal does. When you look at what Audit the Audit does, or when you look at what Lackluster does, and all of the others, when you look at what they do, it is so very much, media focused, and in that medium of video, people want that titillating, tantalizing, let's watch the injustice play out, then we can relate. And so as much as I like to consider myself a storyteller, and I know it's weak at times, but as much as I like to consider myself a storyteller, it is just really hard to engage people in a video format or even an audio format to get them to pay attention. And we need that, folks. I need your help to help us not let this story die. We cannot let this story die, folks. I will not let this story die. If I'm alone, if no one else, if it's just Bailey and I and her mom and her grandparents, if it's just us, if everybody else in the world moves on and says, okay, this is done, we've done our thing, we've done the fundraiser, we've taken part in that, if everybody, and I don't foresee that happening, that's not what I'm saying will happen, but let's just say if that's what happens, I will not stop. I'm not going to stop. I will continue to put this out. I will continue to share it on social media. I will continue to share it on YouTube, and I will continue to tag in other channels and ask guys like Brian from Here's the Deal and Lackluster and others. I'm going to ask you guys. I know that this doesn't have the sexiness of having the video to watch, but folks, do you really need to see that? Do you really need to see the video of a trooper doing 120 miles an hour as he nearly kills 2 cars full of people to say enough is enough? Look, when the months and months and months and months of waiting were done, when Sheriff Brott got off his ass and finally turned the paperwork over, after months and months and months of dragging his feet and protecting Trooper Ryan Moser of the Minnesota State Patrol, he turns it over to the county attorney in Sherburne County, and the county attorney of Sherburne County drags his feet or her feet, and then they decide, oh, well, there's a conflict of interest. Somebody reported to me reliably on Saturday that they have it on good authority that Ryan Moser previously worked for Sherburne County in some capacity. Why it took them months to announce this. But the county attorney finally turns this over to Dakota County, which, by the way, between the Dakota County Sheriff's Office and the Dakota County Attorney's Office, they're the most corrupt agencies in the state of Minnesota outside of Sherburne County. And as soon as I heard that Sherburne County had turned it over to Dakota County without saying anything to anybody else, I knew the fix was in. I knew then that the fix was in. I knew they were not going to prosecute Trooper Ryan Moser. What I did not understand, what I did not grasp at that time, was the timing of that. Was that they waited long enough that the original driver in the wrong way incident died in a care facility, and so then they announced that they would have charged him, that he was going to be the recipient of all the charges. They were laying the blame for the entire situation on the shoulders of a 70-plus-year-old man who now they smeared in the media and blamed him and left his grieving family to hold on to that as one of the last memories they were going to have of their father and their grandfather. And because of the way they're handling this, because of the way Dakota County is handling this, because of the way Sherburne County is handling this, they don't ever have to release any of the reports. They don't have to ever release any of the dash cam. They don't have to ever release any of the body cam video, because all of the parties involved have to consent to the release. So even if Blayke's family said, you know what, this is important enough, we want it, we'll release it. I don't, even if it's not to me. Well, let's say they said, hey, you know what, TC, we're going to release this to you. We're going to just ask, here's some parameters. Do not show X. Do not show Y. Not because we're trying to hide anything, but we just don't want people to be traumatized by what they see. I would abide by that. But see, that's never going to be able to happen. Because now there's the other person involved, Dale, is dead. There's nobody to agree to a release. You don't think they knew that when they did that? Everything that's being done is being done to orchestrate protecting this criminal state patrol trooper Ryan Moser, to protect him from the repercussions of being held responsible for the crime he committed on the night of April 9th of 2025, when he violated in a felonious way Minnesota State Statute 169.17, which says that even when responding to an emergency, you have to drive with due care. You have to drive in such a way that you're not endangering other people. And folks, I've seen this road. Even if a quarter of the traffic that was on the road that night or during the day were to be on that road at night, he was still endangering countless other people, countless other souls, while he was driving 120 plus miles. He was risking lives needlessly. 120 plus miles an hour for I don't know how long. For what reason? And now he walks away. Fish and boat and relax and whatever he wanted to do, knowing the whole time that they were doing everything in their power to keep him from having to face the repercussions of his criminal, felonious behavior. So no, like, I don't feel bad about doing this while I'm live streaming, and people try to point this out all the time, by the way. So AZY37, I follow the example that's set by state, by the government. I watch troopers and other cops and other public employees, government public servants drive down the road at excessive speeds and on their phones, so I really don't care what you say. I would be far more distracted if I was driving and I had kids in the car. You can call me an idiot all you want, but it just exposes that you're a bootlicker. And bootlickers are welcome, because you're here and you're watching and you're commenting, which is driving me further into the algorithm, which is going to help get this story out. So anyway, we're not going away. Bailey's not going away. Bailey's grandparents aren't going away. I just don't care what you say, AZY. Like, I just don't care. But yeah, anyway, we're not going away. We're going to continue to tell the story. We're going to continue to talk about the malfeasance of government. We're going to continue to talk about the fact that law enforcement, that cops, get away, sometimes quite literally, with murder. With murder. It's just absolutely 100% a fact that cops very often will get away with murder. All they have to do is say, I was afraid for my life, or I was just following orders, or I wasn't doing anything wrong. Training that you don't have, on and on and on. They get away with murder. They get away with severe bodily harm. They can take your freedom. They can ruin your life. They can take whatever they want from you at any time. At any time, they take whatever they want from you, including your life. And know that outside of a handful of very, very small cases, there'll just be no repercussions. As Pam Five-Joe said, walk into your house without a warrant, which is what happened to her. You should check out my Justice for Pam stories and see that they just barged their way into her house. Howard Clegg, we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong. And that's another one, Howard, just a phenomenal reminder. You know, people say that all the time, like, well, they didn't investigate themselves, they turned it over to another agency. Yeah, they turned it over to another bunch of cops who are going to need the favor returned at some point. Like, hey, we'll scratch your back if you scratch ours. You know, investigate this for us so we can avoid the appearance of impropriety. And then when you need it, we'll do it too. See, and that's the thing, like, folks, right now, at the federal level, news is breaking of I am firmly on board with people who are breaking the law, illegal aliens coming to our country and breaking the law. I'm firmly on board with them being arrested and removed from this country. Firmly on board with that. What I'm not firmly on board with is ICE agents acting as the Gestapo, acting as the Stasi, acting as secret police, covering their faces, and in the story that I just shared to my Facebook page, shooting a woman and screaming at her, do something about it, bitch. Like, no, I'm not on board with that. See, I have this standard for law enforcement. Their behavior needs to be 150% above what they expect of everyone else, no matter what they're experiencing. So if they're going to pull you over for going 60 in a 55, then they had better never travel more than 55 miles an hour in that 55 mile an hour zone ever, unless they're following all of the laws that we have to follow, plus all the laws that are there to dictate how they behave. There's a story coming out of, I don't even remember what state the sheriff is in. There's a story about the governor, Andy Bashir, finally stepping in and ordering the sheriff to either resign or he's going to be removed from office after a string of DUIs. A string of DUIs. And it took the governor to step in and order and tell him, you need to resign. What? Why? Why is that? Like, okay, the last one that he got, the last DUI he got, he was in his squad car and they were chasing him at high rates of speed. Like, that's a felony. Folks, that's a felony. Fleeing cops in your car, drunk or sober, is a felony in almost every jurisdiction I can think of. And the sheriff had to be ordered by the governor to resign before they removed him from office. Just the fact that the sheriff was given the opportunity to resign before being removed from office says so much about how we treat cops. And the fact that the Minnesota State Patrol Commander, Christina Begovich, didn't look at Trooper Ryan Moser and say, even if they don't charge you, we don't want you working for us. Now, I understand that they have certain protections. I totally understand that. Yeah, when I was in the career field, I was very thankful when my sheriff came after me for my content in 2020 and 2021 that I had a lawyer that my association paid for, because I couldn't afford the kind of lawyer that he was to be able to do what I needed done to protect me from the unlawful or from the wicked persecution that I received. Now, I still ended up leaving that job because at that point I'd had enough. I was done. I could not stay in the career field anymore. But I left on my terms with the with a payout, with a settlement for the fact that they were wrongfully persecuting me. So I understand that means that sometimes the bad ones are going to get protected too, when the few good that are out there also get protected. But there are ways, there is a way that Colonel Christine Begovich of the Minnesota State Patrol, the commander of the entire State Patrol, could have put pressure on him to resign. And I've talked about this enough. I did this stream because I wanted you guys to know that Bailey, and Blayke and the family, they're not giving up. They're not going away. They're not giving up the fight. They're not going to stop fighting for some form of justice. The problem is that now justice is not going to come through the criminal justice system. Justice is probably going to end up having to come through some sort of civil decision. But I'm not going away either. I'm not going to go away. I'm not going to give this up. And like I said in the live stream from the event on Saturday, I hope and pray. I want Trooper Ryan Moser miserable. I don't want anything physically bad to happen to him. I don't want anybody to do any harm to him. I don't want him to get sick. I don't want him to get cancer. I don't want him to lose his life. That is not who I am. That's not who I am. I don't want violence done to him. I am an adherent to the non-aggression principle. So I am not going to hope that someone does violence to him when I myself don't want to do violence to him. But I don't want him to have any peace either. I want him miserable. I want him so scarred. I want him so ruined by what he did to himself and by what he did to others that he gets no sleep, that it haunts him for the rest of his life, and that he cannot do that job, and that he ends up having to leave, and that he can never, ever, ever find a career that pays him as much as he gets paid doing what he's doing now. But you know what I know is going to happen? Guys like this, people like Ryan Moser. And by the way, I have it on good authority that he's got other problems. Oh, man. Jimmy, thank you so much for that. You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you, brother. Thank you, friend. Jimmy John's, Blayke's grandpa, by the way, he's a phenomenal man. I really appreciate what that family's going through and what they're doing. But I do not ever expect that Trooper Ryan Moser will ever feel a moment's guilt. He will feel forever justified. He will feel forever free. He will feel forever fine. He will say things to the effect of, I didn't do anything wrong. My agency stood behind me, and the attorneys found no reason to charge me. And the reason that I say that is because I have heard it 1,000 times over and over and over again in so many similar situations. Do you ever link up with Jason there in the Twin Cities? Howard, send me an email, mbrr podcast at yahoo.com, mbrr podcast at yahoo.com. Somebody, one of the moderators, want to put that mbrr podcast at yahoo.com. Howard, send me an email there and tell me who you're talking about. But I know for a fact that guys like Ryan Moser have no conscience. They have no empathy. They have no sympathy. They have no heart. They have no mind. They are mindless, heartless automatons. They have been trained to be mindless and heartless automatons that care not about anyone but themselves. And they only ever feel any guilt or any pain when it impacts them in a way where they lose their jobs or they lose a career. And then they complain about how the entire system is out to get them, how they have no support, and people respect the criminals and more than they respect the cops. I got news for you folks. Like, one, I used to say things like, one of the reasons I took a settlement instead of suing my former employer was because I said I don't think the taxpayer should have to be on the hook for what the sheriff is doing to me. And I've changed that. Now I want the taxpayers on the hook. I want the taxpayers to have to pay for what law enforcement does wrong. Because that's the only way we're going to see any changes, when the taxpayers start to feel it in their pocketbooks. Two, how do I want to say this? I do not support criminals. And someday I'm going to do a conversation for a Drive Time Dialectic about what a criminal is and what crimes are and how we define actual crime and actual criminals. I do not support convicted criminals who are convicted by a jury of their peers beyond any reasonable doubt. But I will almost always, and I can't say 100% of the time, but I will almost always, without fail, always side on the side of the accused over the accuser or the arrestee or the arrestor. Because every person is entitled to that reasonable doubt. Every person is entitled to make the defense for their against the accusations and be assumed to be innocent. Everybody's entitled to that. So I will always side with the accused over the cops. I will always side, but not without fail, because I've not had every single situation thrown in front of me to test that. But almost always, without fail, I will almost always side with the accused over the cops, over the prosecution. Because I would want you guys to side with me when, not if, when they decide they're going to come for me and trump up some reason about why I had broken the law and I was the criminal. So, no, cops don't get the benefit of the doubt ever, at any time. I will always assume that if a cop is accused of something, he's guilty. And you can ask Pam, Fifi Joe, how's she say it? Fifi Joe. You ask Fifi Joe. I push back. I don't just assume that just because someone's telling me so, cop X did this, that that the cop actually did it. Well, Nikki Knock, Temu Jeff Goldblum. No, I'm not a Temu. I'm more like an Amazon. I'm kind of more of like an Amazon Jeff Goldblum. So I'm like not quite, not not quite like as bad as Temu, but you know, not. I'm more like mid-tier Amazon Jeff Goldblum. Um, but yeah, I don't just assume that that what somebody tells me about a cop is true, but I will never side with police when they're accusing someone of a crime and arresting them. I will never get seated on a jury because I will flat out say, like, the evidence is going to have to be so incontrovertible that that the person is just basically going to have to admit on the stand that they did it for me to convict them. So I do. I always ask for facts. I don't want you telling me, well, they did this to me and they did that to me. I want you to show me how that happened. And that's what cops don't do anymore. They don't actually show it. And a perfect case is the case of James Freeman down in Texas yesterday was just wrongfully arrested. They can't show that he violated any crimes or violated any laws. They just arrested him because he didn't listen to the cop the way the cop wanted him to listen to him, and he told the cop to shut up. But James knows that. James knows he brings it on himself, and he knows that when he goes into it. Blayke, when he got in his car 6 months ago today, he didn't know what he was getting himself into. His family had no idea what they were getting themselves into that day. Fortunately for them, they didn't have to know who I was. But now they do know who I am. And they now understand the hashtag that I share with so many people. Hashtag, back the blue until it happens to you. Because that's all it takes. All it takes is somebody in uniform with a badge and a gun and the backing of government to come into your life and wreck it, to ruin it, to destroy it in some way, whether it's Pam or it's Blayke and his family, or it's all the other families that I have talked to and all the other people that I have talked to over and over and over and over and over again. But I support the cops. I support them. But they did this to me. Why would they do this to me? I'm on their side. I'm a good person. I'm not a criminal. Why would they do this to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is the cop allowing this to happen to me? Why did the cop treat me this way? Why? Because they're out of control and they're corrupt. And it's not just a few bad apples, because bad apples ruin all the other apples. And so they're used to doing whatever they want. And so you're just another number. You're just another victim. And to them, you're not a victim. You're just a person that needs to be disciplined. So yeah, it's back to blue until it happens to you. So I will always side with the accused over the cops. We're not going away. Trisha, Bailey, Vicky, everybody else, I'm not going away. I'm here for Blayke. I'm here for you guys. We'll find a way to find justice for you. It's been 6 months. I'm not giving up.